Okay, thank you ever so much for joining us on this one-off live webinar, and we're going to be talking about the 15 proven tips for website optimization, lessons from a 15-year journey. And we're doing this as part of a special series because Webbox as an agency has just reached its 15th anniversary as a business. So Sean and I have both been in the agency world for 15 years, and we're looking back on some of the lessons that we've learned. So that's the plan for the session today. Just quick intro to myself. So I'm Will, I'm the founder and managing director here at Webbox. I work with our clients to help them define their requirements for website development projects and performance marketing campaigns. And I've worked with brands such as St John Ambulance, DS Smith, Fever Tree and Airbus to help them do just that. So I'm also joined today by Sean.
Thank you. So yeah, just a quick intro to me as well. So I am Sean, Growth Director here at Webbox. As Will says, I've also been in the industry for 15 years. Like Will, I help our clients and our prospective clients shape their requirements into solutions, how they can achieve what they want through their kind of online presence. I actually started out as a developer in my career, worked through different delivery roles, and now working as growth and business development here at Webbox. So just a little intro and things before we begin as well. So we are recording today's session. So if you want to share this round, or if you want to get a refresher on any of the content, then we'll be following up with a link to the video and a copy of the slides as well. So you'll have access to those. If you want to again share this, get involved on socials, please tag us on @WebboxDigital. And just a little bit on today's format as well. So I know a lot of you have signed up to previous webinars of ours, so thank you very much for that and joining us today. You will have known that typically it will be myself or Will that are doing the webinar, a bit more of a presentation, whereas this is going to be a bit more of a discussion. Like we say, we're leaning into that 15 years of experience. We're going to talk through these kind of fundamentals and newer technologies, and hopefully give you some good tips along the way. If you've got any questions or anything, we've got the chat open in front of us here, so feel free to pop things in the chat as we go. We'll try and answer them as we go, but also there's an option at the end to answer any questions as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. So number one in our proven tips is knowing your audience. Now, obviously over 15 years, web has changed a lot, and how businesses present themselves, how people go about creating websites and all those kind of things. But as a fundamental, and a few of these things in here are, as I say, are fundamentals, knowing your audience is just key. So, we'll have done it multiple times with lots and lots of different clients, about understanding who they're targeting, what the kind of goals and the aims of their users are as well, in terms of what they want to achieve through a website.
So there's so many things which have changed over 15 years. We've seen huge changes in our industry over that time, but some of the fundamentals never change. And this is definitely one of them. You have to know your audience when you're considering a website or kind of performance marketing campaign. And you always know, don't you, like the websites that you get to where they've considered that well, and there's some really clear user journeys for each of your audiences.
Definitely.
Now, sometimes this is best done externally. That doesn't have to be an agency, but that could be through running workshops to get external input on this process, so that people feel like their user journey is being considered.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, just a plug of my webinar that I did yesterday. Some of you may have been on it, but talking about user journeys, and quite often when we talk about or anything website optimization related or anything user journey related, it's always the knowing who your audience is, but it's using data and really understanding who they are. So quite often I'll say that people think they know who they're targeting, or they have an idea of who it might be, but based on their own kind of prejudice or pre-assumptions. Whereas by gathering data through, whether that's through Google Analytics, like demographic data, which can be a bit easier to collect, but also things like psychographic data. So what are their goals, what are their aims, what are their challenges, which will help you do things like improve your user journey, improve the content that you're putting on the website, and all those kind of things. So you can do that through surveys or questionnaires, different things on the website to gather that information as well.
Yeah, completely. So we've just talked about knowing your audience, and kind of on a similar vein, it's really important that, especially when you're thinking about a website, that you have a really clear proposition. So over the 15 years,
Nice
hey,
segue. Nice segue
nice
there.
segue.
Yeah.
So over the 15 years, we've seen many a site where, we land on a homepage and you've got no idea what that business does.
Yeah.
And they leave you in that position where you've got to trawl through loads of content to understand what it is they do. That's a bugbear of mine and yours, I know, and of many users. And what we always come back to is some of the fundamentals. Have a clear proposition above the fold so people don't even need to scroll to understand what it is.
Yeah.
Even better, if you can do that in 5-6 words, then make it snappy, get to the point so people understand what it is.
It's that elevator pitch piece, isn't it?
Exactly.
Know instantly who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
And you mentioned bugbear there. A few of these might be bugbears, so if you bear with us as we go through them. But I think it's it comes back, and a lot of it as well comes back to not making the user think. Like I've said this to you multiple times, loads before, is it should be an easy experience for the user. So even obviously clear proposition is from a content perspective, but that can lean into design, that can lean into how the content looks, whether that's video, imagery, all the different things that come into that. So yeah, it's just making sure that the user instantly knows what you do, because if they come to the site and they can't figure it out or they can't find specific information that they need, they're just going to go somewhere else. Go back to Google, have a search for someone else and go through to a different organization.
Yeah, and if anyone thinks, why does this matter? It matters because from a data perspective, we've seen time and time again that it reduces bounce rate. So when people land on your homepage, if you have a high bounce rate at the moment, one of the reasons might be that you're not setting out your stall clearly enough. So yeah, it matters because of that.
Cool, nice.
Yeah.
Well, and then moving on, so the next one is personalized content. Not quite as good a segue as Will there, but personalized content. So, over the last probably even less than 12 months it'll be, but AI has boomed. Everybody knows ChatGPT, everybody knows AI. So that is not necessarily all personalized content is, but it is a big proponent in that. So using AI to understand people's behaviors, who they are, their kind of interests, again, knowing that audience and using that to then tailor the content towards them. So, what one kind of top level way that you can do personalized content will be just using landing pages. So if you've got, say, a mailing list, you send out an offer or, it might be you've got an event coming on or anything that you want to kind of promote, you send that out to your mailing list, and if you've done your kind of homework and you've filtered out that mailing list so that you know who these people are, what their interests are, and all those kind of things, you can then tailor that landing page exactly for that person and their experience and their goals and their aims. So it's about tapping into what the audience wants and giving them that bit more of a personalized feel, so that it's tailored towards them. It's not just kind of generic and for everybody. Yeah.
I remember when I started out 15 years ago, and a website was just a website. It was very static.
5 pages.
5 pages.
Yeah.
It was a lot of text. It was just kind of that was just the way it was. And I think what we've realised now, thankfully, is that not all users are the same. Everyone wants something different. We've all got different kind of browsing habits and kind of attention spans, to be frank, and we need to change the content depending upon our browsing habit.
Yeah.
And actually, Apple are a really good example here, where if they notice you scroll really quickly down their pages, then they understand that you know what you're looking for. So they start to reduce the amount of animation they put into their site.
It's nuts, that. It's class.
It's incredible
so
how
good.
they do it. But it's one of those things that you could start to tailor the journey.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to kind of implement this, one way you could start to do it is kind of rely on a third party to kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So I always recommend looking into Personalize.
Yeah.
It's a great platform to kind of plumb into a website to help you with personalization, and obviously lean on that kind of power of AI.
It's got loads of tools, that as well, like A/B testing, all sorts of different things to get your teeth stuck into. So definitely have a look at that.
Yeah.
Cool. So next up.
Lovely. So moving on, so design trends. So, we're talking about proven tips. And one of the things which, again, will definitely move the needle for you is having a website which is on trend. Now, I need to be really clear here. We're going to touch on 2 design trends, but it's not to go away and just to implement one of those design trends, oh, great, Will and Sean said this. It's not about that. What it's about is understanding that when people come to your website, they have a reflection of your business. And if your website looks tired and it looks dated, that's their impression of your business, right?
Well, it's like I said to you, it's like if you went to somebody's retail shop in the physical world or their office and there was stuff everywhere and it looked like a mess, you'd think, oh, they're not very professional here, are they? Same on your website. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. So it's really important that the website looks and feels like your business and it's the best representation of you. So let's have a look at 2 trends. So the first is gradients. So the use of gradients used to be something which was kind of a little bit old school. Gradients were used back in the 90s and noughties. People thought it was really cool to have a gradient. The reality is that trend has come back, but with more vibrant colours. And as you can see from some of these screenshots, it looks really good when it's done well.
Yeah.
And also a good way to kind of draw out call to actions in a slightly kind of eye-catching way.
Maybe we should try and bring back tie-dye as well. That'll be the next one. But yeah, it does look good. It looks really nice. It's impactful, isn't it?
It's like clothing trends, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of comes back.
Cyclical.
The second trend is oversized text. So the use of oversized text is a great way to get your message across with less words and allow people to digest content quicker. But there's also some other benefits to it in terms of page speed. So if you're relying more on large text as opposed to large imagery, your website would load quicker. But actually a lot of websites are now moving to having oversized text as part of their design structure. Obviously not everywhere, but just as elements. And as I say at the start, these 2 trends are not the only 2, and they're not 2 to go away and just implement straight away. But it's important to understand that your website is a reflection of your business.
Definitely, yeah, exactly. That's the key as well, because it's like, if you're in a certain sector, but gradients aren't going to reflect what your your tone is or what you do as a business. Don't go and slap some gradients on there.
Yeah.
So I think the keeping up with design trends, and everybody always references the Apple website as you just have, but even like clients, like when we say what websites do you like, the Apple website always comes up. So they're just always at the forefront of what design is and the latest kind of trends online as well. So just keep an eye on those things. Which leads us on to next is navigation. So another bugbear, we'll say.
It's a real bugbear of yours.
Well, so this is a really interesting one, I think, because I spoke to someone a few weeks ago at an event, and they came up to me and said they'd been to another event where they'd heard that navigation is dead, basically. A bit like maybe it's like the new SEO.
Right.
But sorry for any people that do SEO out there. But so they said it was dead because everybody kind of uses search and things like that. But I take a very different track to that, because often when we do digital audits, which we'll touch on later on, but when we do digital audits for people, loads of businesses will have a search on their website when they only maybe offer like 3 or 4 services. Yeah. So it's like, what are the users actually searching for? And I did a test, looked at someone's Google Analytics the other week, and they'd had, over the year, it was something like 100,000 page views, and on the search URL, it was like 700. So it was like 0.03% of users looking at search. So navigation definitely has its place, but it needs to be, again, like the proposition, like knowing your audit, it needs to be clear and concise. So in terms of user journey, think about the key pages that you want users to go to, how easy is it to access, and that's just from kind of like top level, like traditional navigation. You've got navigation through linked case studies or linked news articles on pages, linked blog posts. You've got, if it's a product page, things that other people have also bought or what else you might be interested in. All these things are navigation. So it's about that overall navigation structure and making sure that it's easy to get to different content and not be kind of like funneled down one area and you can't get back to other sections of the site.
Yeah. I always know when Sean has found a website that he can't navigate around because he's in the office just like whacking his desk where I can't navigate around the site. It's always really obvious.
It's not hard.
It's a bugbear, right?
Yeah, it should be done simply, shouldn't it?
The reality is it's a bugbear for all users, so that's the important thing. But related to that is how we can then make navigation more easy, and one of the ways is through voice. So thinking about kind of, if you're looking to redesign a website, what we're encouraging you to think about at the moment is a voice user interface. So we're all a lot more familiar with Google Home and Alexa and so on, and we speak to these devices day in, day out. And that kind of movement is very much embedded now into websites. So Google, as you'd expect, was one of the first websites to kind of incorporate that.
Yeah.
So you can speak your search into Google.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is that's coming into websites as well. And we've seen loads of examples of that. But that helps people navigate around a website, because ultimately, if they can just speak into it what they're looking for, and then the website returns helpful results, then it's going to just smooth out that user journey.
I mean, I was just dissing search, but yeah, there's, I think the other part of that is that if the search results and the search page is good, because that's quite often not thought about. It's not one of our points, but it's people have a search and you go through to it, whether it's through voice or text, and it's not really giving you very good results. So whereas, so I think I've definitely used this a lot, on my phone, using Google, using Chromecast on TV, you can speak to the remote and all that sort of stuff. And I've said to you before a few times that, this is just going to get more and more natural behavior for people as well. So I've got an old Sonos speaker at home, and my kids, first time they saw it, they were asking it to play, whatever Barbie soundtrack or something. Because they're used to using Alexa, and I was like, it's not like that. You can't speak to it. You've got to do it through the app.
It's a Barbie soundtrack for you.
Yeah. It's good. It's good actually.
It's a good film.
But yeah, so I just think more and more people are going to use it. I think maybe it's our generation as well, but I would still feel awkward doing that in a public place. But if I'm at home on my own or whatever, you can do an easy, quick search. And I think the thing that this leads into as well is looking at website content is the kind of more long form search queries as well. So rather than it being a couple of words or the keywords that people are looking for, it will be that kind of question based. So someone will be looking at, they'll be voice searching what's the best dog food for a cavapoo or whatever it might be. I don't know why I thought cavapoo. But so it's more question based. So think about the content on the site as well and how that relates to the search terms to marry up as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Okay, great.
Nice. And that leads us on to great call to actions. So CTAs, call to actions, they again are fundamental. They should be used throughout the site. And these kind of link in with navigation, but they're a bit more action based. So typically, these will be for things like downloading a white paper or reading a blog post or sign up to an event, getting in touch, all these kind of things that you want users to take action with. And when we say great call to action, there's some key things that you should consider with your call to actions. Those being using kind of like commanding language, so you're telling the user like what to do, how this kind of interacts, and rather than just using language like click here, which doesn't really mean anything. Obviously, there's the context around that, but if it says more detail, like click here to find out about X, or it can be a bit lengthy, but if it's clearer what that link does, people are more likely to click on it and take that action because they know where they're going to go, they know how they're going to kind of interact with it.
Yeah, it's funny how call to actions have evolved over 15 years because I remember back in the day it was very much kind of like the end goal, so it was like buy or inquire or whatever, like bottom of the funnel stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we've realised, thankfully, in more recent years is that actually most businesses have a stepping stone approach in their sales journey. So people don't just convert on the first click or first visit. They need to kind of understand that brand and kind of warm to it and so on.
Yeah.
And through those stepping stones, you engage with your customers. So one of the things that we've seen, I guess, over the last especially 5 years, is that kind of rise of what we call secondary call to actions. So you've got your primary, which you kind of inquire, buy, and so on, but actually it's the secondary ones which are as important. So where you're saying to them, download a white paper, as you say, an ebook or whatever, harnessing that data, so you're kind of gathering first-party data is important for your marketing strategy.
Yeah.
But also just actually kind of the importance of those are sometimes as important as your primary call to action.
The softer call to action.
Absolutely, the softer ones.
Well, it's funny because it leans in as well to things like personalised content and, again, the user journey stuff I was talking about yesterday. Somebody asked a great question in terms of for higher value ticket items, what do you consider then for a user journey? And, I said... typically with that, as hopefully most people would understand, someone's not going to come to the website and just make that purchase immediately. People want to do their research. They may come back 2, 3, 4 times. So if you've got those softer call to actions and, like you say, you gather that data, if that person's, they've downloaded that brochure, they've come back, they've looked at something else, you can see those different user journeys and how they then build up to that like more bottom of the funnel call to action eventually.
Yeah, like we see that all the time in our PPC campaigns, don't we?
Yeah,
Where, you know, the kind of end goal is, you know, a sale is made or an inquiry is made or whatever that might be. But there's been kind of 5, 6, 7 touch points. You know, it might be they've kind of engaged with you organically on social, maybe with a paid ad on social, they've done this, that and everything. And then it's the final visit, which is that conversion. But it's important to understand that the previous touch points are as important.
Yeah. And that's where the tracking comes in, which, no spoilers, but we might get to a bit later in one of these points.
Maybe.
And moving on, so I mentioned bugbears, but this is the pinnacle of bugbears for me, is forms, right? So effective forms are just a massive fundamental, really, for websites, because talking of call to actions again, you know, this is the point where somebody is getting in touch with you, they're inquiring. It might be that you're asking for their details to download a white paper. It might be that you sign up to an event, whatever it might be, but it's something that a user is taking that decision to interact with you as a business, right? So the amount of times that I've gone to forms and used forms on websites where it just doesn't make sense how you fill it out, or when you do fill it out, then the error messages just don't make any sense. Like everything goes red, but it doesn't tell you how to actually fix that issue. It's just ridiculous, and it just comes down to communication, really, at the end of the day. So make sure that it's super duper clear and easy for your users to fill out forms. One thing that I often look at again on the audits is, say on a contact page, if somebody's got a contact form, they might put. Sometimes there's like 20 fields, but you know there'll be like typically name, email, telephone, message, you know, inquiry type, whatever it might be like that. And I'll often say just make kind of like name and email or telephone the mandatory fields and leave the rest for free. It's like they don't need to fill those out, because you're removing barriers for people to inquire on that. And you know, once you've got their contact details, you can then reach back out to them and find out what their inquiry is. Like not everybody might know what message they should put in there, or the worst I always think, which isn't necessarily a form, but is if you skip the form and do a mail to link. Because it opens up an email. It doesn't even work on our machines because we use Gmail anyway. But if it opens up an Outlook window, I'm like, well, what subject do I put in here? What what message do I put in here? You know, it's just, again, don't make the user think. Make it as easy as possible for them to complete that form.
Yeah. Another two things to kind of try if you're kind of looking to improve your forms. So make use of like Typeform. So this is a platform which breaks down forms into single questions, takes over the full screen, so it's a great UI, but it's a great UX as well, and just allows you to digest through questions really easily. The second is the use of progressive lead forms. You know, so where you understand that a user has been to your website before, and you then don't serve them the same form, but you serve them a different form because you've already got that data that you first collected.
But again, it's removing that barrier, isn't it? You don't need to ask for 20 things straight away. Ask for a couple of bits, and then as they come back, you delve in a bit more and build up a picture about that person.
And just drip feed into your CRM as you gather that data.
Exactly. Nice.
Cool. Okay, so moving on then. So we're looking now at employing PPC principles, right? So obviously we run a lot of PPC campaigns, and when you run a campaign, you've got to make sure that the PPC campaign and the website are kind of in harmony. Otherwise, you can get as much traffic to the website as possible, but it's going to fall down at that point. So really, from a website perspective, it's really important to understand that your content is relevant to the ad. So that principle is also important if you're not running PPC, because the content has to be relevant to the user that's come from a particular search. Right?
Exactly,
so content relevancy is super important. So that's one principle to think about. The second is actually the kind of speed of how they get access to the site, page speed. That has an impact.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. We'll come back to that. That has an impact on your PPC campaign. And a number of other things which, as you run a PPC campaign, you understand that the website then has to change in order to get the best results. And I think employing those principles, regardless of whether you're doing a PPC campaign or not, is really important, you know? And we've seen that time and time again.
I mean, to me as well, it's the idea of, to me, a PPC principle is learning from data. So again, it's use those data gathering tools on your site to understand how people are using different pages, what kind of content are they trying to access. You might have a again, spoilers, you might have a chat bot, or you might have something where people can interact with,
Yeah.
what are their questions, what is it they're looking for, and then learn from that and update the content accordingly. So that it's much easier for the user to access. Same with the PPC, isn't it? Like you're learning from that data, you're adjusting the copy, the image, where it's shown, when it's shown, who it's shown to, all those kind of things. So it all comes into play.
Yeah, and this is actually a massive topic, so we'll leave it there just because of time, but actually if you want to talk to us about kind of what those principles are, how your PPC campaign might actually affect your website, then obviously just drop us a message.
Cool. Right, next up.
Okay, technical SEO. So, gosh, we've seen some changes in the world of SEO over 15 years. I remember 15 years ago it was all about keyword stuffing and kind of just get as many backlinks as possible to give your domain credibility. And actually things have changed significantly. And one of the things that we're seeing more recently is two things. The first is Google's absolute focus and priority on page speed and experience. So that matters significantly. Yeah. So if you've got a website and it's not incredibly fast to navigate and it hasn't got a good experience, naturally that will affect your SEO. Yeah. The second is the use of some of the more kind of recent structured data snippets. So one example is if you do a Google search now, and if you search Google with a question, what pubs are near me, or how much does this cost, or whatever, you'll see this kind of people also ask area. And the way to get your website to index into that is quite easily to have structured data snippets within your website. So these are just bits of code, which then signals to Google that it can index it into a people also ask query. So these are just some of the little things that we've seen change. But I guess the thing that I come back to time and time again with clients and the conversations that I have is SEO is always evolving. So if you're doing the strategies which were kind of employed 5, 10, 15 years ago, you really need to understand that this is a really fast-moving world, and things have changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the AI again, the update with Bard. So the Google, I haven't actually experienced it yet, so I don't know when they're releasing it, but I've seen examples of it happening. So when people are searching for, I think the example they had were like electric bikes, and it came up with results almost like a web page result on Google before you get through to the website. So obviously everybody at the time were panicking. Then what about SEO? Like we're gonna lose click-throughs and we're gonna lose all these things. But again, I think it's about making sure your content is relevant and making sure that you're gonna have to adjust it so that it's the content that will be picked up by these AI tools, by Google's algorithm and whatever else it might be. But yeah, it's constantly changing. And like, I know I made the joke earlier about navigation and SEO, but just because everybody's always like, SEO, is it dead? Is it still going? But it's not dead. It's just evolving. It's just something that, as all marketing stuff, keeps you on your toes, keeps changing.
Never a dull day.
Exactly, never a dull day. Which brings us on to actually, which is a part of this, optimize page speed. Yes. So this is one that, again, in the audits we focus on massively. It's super important. And as you said there, from an SEO perspective, the reason this is so important is because Google effectively want to send you to a website as a user that has a good user experience. If they're giving you results and it takes 10 seconds for that page to load and they click through, they're going to get annoyed and not want to use. Well, they're probably not going to get away from Google, but it's a bad experience for them. Yeah. Exactly, they want to give you that good experience for going to fast, effective websites. So. They've never actually, I don't think, fully said how important it is, but it is definitely they say context of content is the main driver, but page speed is definitely up there.
Yeah, there was a huge ranking factor for sure, and they've come out and said that, so that there's no kind of smoke and mirrors with this. Yeah. This is definitely one of the black and white items. A question I often get asked is kind of like, how long do we just take on page speed? Is it like a one-off process? And actually, what we've come to realise time and time again, and what we've seen in the data, is that it's an ongoing process which takes a heck of a lot of time. Okay, so to optimise the page speed of your website properly does take time, but don't be fooled by thinking that's a one-off process. So even if you're currently scoring very high within kind of Google's page speed tool, that will naturally degrade over time as the website content changes, as technology moves on, but mainly actually as Google move the goalposts, as they like to do, right? Yeah. So it's
I think our website's got 100 out of 100, but Someone said to me the other day on a call, I knew it was very high, but they were like, I can't believe your website gets 100 on the Google page.
But like how long,
but yeah, we're constantly looking at it and
how long
updating
have you spent on it?
Yeah, exactly.
You
Ages.
know? It'd probably be kind of eye-watering numbers.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. But the reality is, it is important and it has a huge impact, right? So yeah, one of these things where if you're not focusing on page speed, then you can do all the SEO stuff that you want, you can do all the PPC campaigns you want, but there will be a fundamental flaw in any of that campaign. So page speed is fundamental.
The other challenge with that as well is obviously we're talking about all these things that you can do to the website. I don't think any of them so far have been too much that would affect your page speed. But when we obviously talk about, additional tools and plugins and whether it's animations, all these kind of things that add to the load time of the page. So it's really important to get that balance right as well. And again, that's where the optimization comes in. It's making sure all those things work in harmony and you still get a fast experience. So video is a big one as well. I've had lots of conversations with people about how can I use more video on my website, because people like video as a great medium to share content in, but not get hit negatively through Google page speed and all those kind of things. So
I remember a conversation I had with someone where they were like, I'm getting 100% in Google's page speed tool. I'm like, great, happy days. But the website was literally just kind of plain HTML. It was black and white. There was no styling. It was literally just text on a page, absolutely bare basics that you would have seen 15 years ago. That was made in bloody Dreamweaver.
It's good UX though.
It's
fast. It's fast.
But there's got to be that balance, isn't there?
You
You can't just say, right, we're going to kind of forego UX and design and animation and all these other things just to get 100%. So there's got to be a balance, but there are ways that you can kind of do it in the right way to still get a very, very high score.
Or we'll often say we aim for 80 and above for new websites, and obviously the higher we can get it, then the better. But it's all about that. Cool. Nice. So next up.
Okay, so intelligent automation. So this is definitely something we've seen evolve over the years. Wasn't really a thing, when I kind of started out 15 years ago, but actually now it's something which is very much at the forefront of most people's businesses, because people understand that the website is one moving part in your whole business. So you might have CRMs, accounting softwares, and all these other wonderful things that businesses have. But they can't really be standalone, because when they're standalone, you get lots of manual processes and kind of mistakes are made and so on. So obviously, most people now would integrate their website with their CRM, so inquiries go straight in, or they'd integrate it into an accounting software where maybe there's e-commerce involved and so on. And these are all great things to start automating processes. So one of the things that we always kind of talk about, don't we, is how can you start to streamline the processes? And one way to do that is to look at your organization, look at your team's workload, what do they get involved in day by day? And where they're spending significant amounts of time on processes which are repeatable, start to consider how the website or that ecosystem might be able to automate the process and take the burden off them.
Nice. I mean, that can even go down as simple as things like FAQs on your website. So again, like what are the general inquiries, what are people looking for, and make sure you're answering those questions on the site. But I mean, integrations being the key there. And I feel like it's boomed over the last 18 months, 2 years in terms of, again with AI, I keep saying AI, but
Did you mention AI?
What is AI? But so even kind of like email automation, HubSpot, all these Mailchimp, all these platforms have got their automation, their workflows. So it's about taking those, like you say, those manual tasks and freeing yourself up to work on other things, so that you're not doing all the kind of mundane drudgery stuff all the time. And you take over then when you need to get involved, kind of thing, when it's a bit more either down the funnel with a lead or whatever that might be. Cool.
There's a balance, isn't there? Because if you automate everything, then you just come across as a robot.
Exactly.
So this is great for like back-end processes. So where maybe like an e-commerce store might be going, right, we've now got we've had a sale, we now need to raise the invoice and we need to kind of create the customer in Zero and whatever. All those kind of processes can start to be automated. Whereas when you're doing kind of more sales, front-end kind of focused stuff, then I am a big believer that a personalised approach is right. Now that might start with one or two automated messages, but it shouldn't be the whole journey, in my opinion, that's automated.
Well, I mean, even I spoke to somebody earlier this year, I won't name who it was, but they have a manufacturing company essentially, and they had no kind of digital processes. So it was all manual. They didn't know where orders were. They were, they didn't know how many orders were coming in, how many were going out. It was all a bit chaotic. It was all on paper. So we talked to them about doing a internal web system where it can manage all of that. They could scan things through the website via the barcode, and it would add it, or a QR code, and it would track the journey of that through the process. So they've got a log of that. At the very top level, if you haven't got that stuff in place, you probably should. It's going to make huge efficiencies in the business. Just make all processes better.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Okay, great.
Cool. And then, so next one, we had a little bit of a spoiler earlier. Love them or hate them is chatbots.
Yeah.
So chatbots is a really interesting one. I literally last week had a really bad experience with one. It might have been Monday actually, but
well, I had a good experience last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, I'll go mine first.
Okay,
Mine's always negative for some reason, bugbear. But it was I was trying to get an invoice through a certain catalogued company. I won't say who it was. And the bot came up, and so I put in I think it asked me for an email address. I gave them that, gave them my name, gave them the order number.
Yeah.
And then it went through, it asked me for exactly the same things again, and then it went through to an actual person, and he asked me for the same things again. And I'm like, what's happening here? Like, surely that data has gone through to the person who's talking. So I often find with the bots, some of them I've had really good experience with, but they can, until somebody takes over, which is, I think there's the chat bot and the chat chat box, I suppose, is the other one, where there's a person behind it, is as long as the chat bot has the right information, the right answers for your users, and that, again, that's like, make sure you're learning from the data. Look at the transcripts, how people actually interacted. Make sure that they can rate it afterwards to say, it wasn't a great experience, or this answered exactly what I needed. Because like I say, we'll hear your story in a second, but I have used them where you go in there and it answers the question, or it just goes, I'll put you through to somebody, and great, I've got my query answered by a human, which is great.
Well,
tell me your positive story. Go on.
I haven't always had great experiences, but so the positive experience I had last week was I was renewing my car insurance, and it had literally doubled, if not more, since last year. So I was like, oh my life.
Yeah, I found that nuts, isn't it?
Absolutely crazy. What's going on?
I don't know, yeah.
So I kind of phoned them one time, this was before the last week, and they were having none of it. No, just is what it is. Yeah. So I kind of thought, right, okay, fair enough. So I then kind of did a comparison, and the costs were no better. Yeah. So I went back to the company I was with, and this time I did it through a chatbot. And I did that because we were about to go out, and the kids were kind of running around screaming, and I thought, if I'm on the phone now, it's going to just be a nightmare. So I opened up the chatbot, spoke to someone their end, and yes, there was a few automated questions at the start, but after that, I got through to a person. I said, look, this is the situation, blah, 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 anything you can do. And I had about 400 quid off the car insurance, and they just did it there and then.
Yeah.
So I
think that's the key, though. I think when you get through to a person, the experience can generally be better. This is why you need to really do a bit of research in terms of the chatbot that you use. So I think one we've integrated before is through Intercom. So once you get through to somebody, that's when it improves. Whereas we've integrated with Intercom before, and obviously the questions that it does automatically, you need to program kind of the answers that you want it to go back with, what kind of questions people are going to ask. So it's about making sure that you do that well, and you learn from that data and how people actually interact with them, the types of questions they're asking as well. With the chatbots as well, I think the experience is definitely better when you get through to a person generally. Some chatbots are very good. One that we've integrated with before is Intercom, but you kind of program and set up the answers that you want it to give to certain questions. So again, like all these marketing tips, learn from what people are asking and how it's responding to those questions to make that process smoother. Because again, even from the intelligent automation point of view, if you can answer 50% more queries through the bot, then you're freeing up your customer service staff to concentrate on the bigger issues that maybe need a person there to help interact with.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
So I think it's definitely one to use. A lot of people love them, a lot of people hate them, but we are encouraging people to reconsider their position on it, aren't we?
I think they're definitely good. It's a good channel for people to get in touch with you as a business.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Right. We seem to be back online. So
we're
that's
back
good.
on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
next up.
Coming back into our 14th is interactive storytelling. So we've seen a real rise more recently in kind of displaying content in a very interactive way. So just put this into a real term example. if I were in front of someone and I had to talk about Webbox as a business, it's very easy for me to sell that story, to talk about the journey and the team and what we offer and so on. It's very difficult to translate that onto a website where it's just written content. And what you're then saying to the user is, look, for you to find all of this out, you've got to go read through paragraphs and paragraphs of text. Let's be honest, that's quite boring, mundane, and less people will do that. So we're really encouraging people to consider how they can tell their story in an interactive way. And this works really well on an About Us page as one example. So start to think about how you can kind of share that story, and kind of interact, get people to watch videos as part of it. The page would often be animated as they're scrolling down. And what we've found anyway, haven't we, is that people would engage with those pages and get to the bottom, and they would have digested the content far easier.
Yeah. It's chunking it up and making it more interesting, isn't it? So like you say, About Us page, quite often you'll find it on a history page as well, like about the business. But then as well, if you're talking about a service and, perhaps why that service is the one that they should use, why are you better than your competitors, what makes you different, what are the advantages of it. And as somebody goes down the page, obviously you can go as simple as things like content animates or fades in as you go down. But also, like you say, there could be videos, there could be like a quiz, there could be anything that somebody can interact with just to make that a bit more engaging, a bit more interesting as you go through the content.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely worth looking at. And then our final,
last but not least,
number 15, is advanced tracking. And, we started with some fundamentals, didn't we?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, this is another fundamental, but so often people overlook it. So, a lot of people might go, right, well, I've got Google Analytics on my website, I'm sorted, right? I'm tracking, I kind of, got it done and dusted. The reality is there is so much more that you can do, and it is powerful stuff. So little things like, setting up goals, or if you're an e-commerce store, e-commerce goals, where you start to understand what buttons people are clicking on, how people are interacting and so on, or using a tool like Hotjar to start to record the screen, give you heat maps and so on.
Yeah.
And there's, because of time I won't go into it, but there's so many things you could do. But then once you're gathering all of that data, really understanding how people are using this site, you've got to do something with it. And obviously with the release of GA4 recently, we've had a lot of feedback where people are finding it difficult to use that platform and understand the data. So therefore, what we're doing for a lot of our clients at the moment is setting up a Google Looker Studio dashboard where it starts to pull in all this data from GA4, Meta, LinkedIn, and all these different places, and put it into a dashboard which is easy to understand. Because it's all well and good having advanced tracking in place, but if you can't make any sense of the data, then it's completely pointless.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's really key with GA4 as well. So you say people don't even understand necessarily how to interact with the data now because it's different to universal analytics, but even the way that it tracks things. So you need to set more goals up because what Universal Analytics might have been doing is not necessarily being done in GA4. So it's a bit of a reset. It's a bit like figure out what you want to track, what is important to you, and then make sure you've got those things in place. But again, like you said, using that data is the key here. So it's all very well and good gathering it all, but if you just let it sit there and do nothing with it, then it's a bit of a kind of wasted effort. So it's make sure that you're analysing that on a regular basis and understanding, again, this is a part of, as we said at the number one, knowing your audience. What pages are they accessing? Where are they dropping out? What is their kind of user journey and the exit point? What's the bounce rate? All these kind of things will help you to improve, especially paired up with things like Hotjar. We love Hotjar here. Pair that up to get that understanding of what people are doing so that you can make those 1% improvements and continue to improve your marketing on your website.
Exactly. And this is, about making informed decisions, isn't it?
Exactly.
So often as marketers, we might go, oh, well, I want to make this change. And when you challenge that and say why, it's like, oh, well, I just think it would be good, or someone in the department asked me to. Let's make data-driven decisions where we make changes to a site or a campaign or wherever it might be based on data. So we know that this is going to have a positive impact. So, you might be sitting on a gold mine of data that you just haven't tapped into.
Exactly.
So they are our 15 proven tips from our 15-year journey, and we hope that you found some use in those. Now, we've obviously just been talking about GA4 and tracking, which brings me nicely on to the fact that we have a number of different resources that we would love to share with you. So after this session, we will share with you a number of different resources which you can make use of. One of them is some guidance when it comes to GA4 and understanding the differences between GA4 and UA. But we've got other resources. So for example, if you're thinking about refreshing your website at the moment and you're writing a brief, then we've got a website brief template to help you in that process, all the way through to choosing the right CMS for your website and many, many more. So we'll send you a link to that.
Cool. I would just say, I think we're a bit discombobulated because of the cutting out. But if anyone's got any questions on any of those 15 points or anything else, feel free to pop it in the chat now.
Yes.
We'll keep an eye on it. I've got the chat open here on the laptop, and I will just talk about the digital audit while you do that. So I mentioned the digital audit a couple of times today on the webinar as well, and this is an opportunity for you to discuss with us your business, your website, any challenges that you're currently having with that. We can go away and put our heads together to have a look at things like design and UX, things like your page speed, your Google Analytics data, those kind of things. A lot of the points that we've talked about today, and how you could improve your marketing and your website for your users. So it's a manual process. We do it through, we don't just run it through a tool and pump out the answers for you. So it's using our expertise to look at that, and we put a slide deck together for you and present that back to you with some ideas of what you could improve on. So if that's something you're interested in, we'll be following up with the slides and the video, and we'll put a link into to access the digital audit as well. But also, if you go to our website, there's a great call to action in the top that you can click on and fill out our effective form, and it will come through to us and we can start that process for you.
Great stuff. So yeah, if there are any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. We're more than happy to stick around for a little bit to answer those. So we'll just pop the chat open and just see what we've got.
Cool. Nothing yet. But yeah, while you do that, again, thank you for joining. Sorry for the technical difficulty in the middle there, but
Yes.
I'd love to get some feedback as well, what you think of the kind of dual hosting. As we say, it's the first one we've done. I've quite enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's been good. Yeah. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, let us know. We'd love to do it again. If there's any topics you want to hear about, anything like that, then please let us know. Also, Will has got his webinar. Give you a little promo here. 24 must-haves for your website in 2024.
Correct.
There's a few other things that we've discussed today in there, but also obviously a lot more expanded as well. And that is on, is it December the 6th?
That's right, yeah. So it's easiest to follow us on Eventbrite. So if you just search Webbox on Eventbrite, follow us there, and you'll find a number of other webinars that we're running over the next couple of weeks.
Nice, cool. We have got a question.
All right, great.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much for that.
Fantastic. Thanks for your
Good to know.
feedback. Appreciate that. So thank you ever so much for your time today. Thanks for joining. We'll be in touch very shortly. But for now, we hope this has been really useful content for you.